Hello music producers and welcome to another exciting video. In this video we're going to be going over mastering the track from start to finish within FL Studio using stock plugins only. But first of all, we have to understand what exactly mastering is all about. Mastering is the final stage of music production. It is the preparing of a mixed audio file for distribution and playback on various platforms. It's a very crucial step that enhances the overall sound, ensuring it translates well across different system formats and devices. Mastering involves a series of processes which includes equalization, compression, limiting, stereo imaging, loudness maximization, and various quality controls here and there. A skilled mastering engineer now goes ahead to apply these processes on the audio file, respecting the artist's vision while preparing the audio file for CD and digital releases, streaming platforms, radio broadcasts, live performances, and other physical formats. At the end of it all, a well-mastered audio ensures a professional, polished sound that engages listeners and withstands various playback environments. So now let's go ahead and master a song within FL Studio using stock plugins alone. So now, first things first, we have to prepare our track for the mastering stage, and that is exactly why we are in the project file where we did all the mixing and everything. First of all, you actually need to create headroom. And headroom is basically just reduce the volume, and we do this to avoid clipping. And it's also best to leave the mastering track empty, and then you go ahead and reduce this. So what I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to play the loudest part of my track, or the busiest part of the track, and I'm going to go ahead and reduce the volume of the master here just to create headroom. Most of the time you hear producers go between -3 to -6, but I just prefer around -5, -6, so that's what I'm going to go ahead and work with. Alright, so once that is done, we're going to go ahead and export our track. We're going to be exporting it as a WAV file. To send this to 32 bits, and then you can now go ahead and click export. Okay, so once that is done, you're going to go ahead and import the audio file into a new FL Studio project. Normalize the track first of all, and then we're going to be focusing on the busiest part or the loudest part of the track. I have my busiest part here. You can just look at the wave and you will notice that right here is busiest part. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and loop over this, and then this is actually what we're going to be focusing on. Alright, so this is where the main mastering actually starts. So we're going to go over to the mixer, and we're going to be focusing definitely on the master track right here. So now first things first, we're going to be adding an EQ to clean up the track. And just go ahead and add in a parametric EQ too. And go over to the presets, and you will see mastering right here. Go ahead and select on the 30 kilohertz. As you can see right here, we have a low cut and we have a high cut. So what you want to do is just want to take this low cut to around 30 hertz. Okay, sometimes you might hear some producers take it to up to 40 hertz. All right, some take it down to 20, but I just like to leave it at the sweet spot, which is 30. And you don't need to be bothered about what you are cutting out, because you are actually never going to hear this on most speakers. And then we have the high cut, all right, and we are going to go ahead and cut this around 16.65, just somewhere between 16 and 17 is perfect. Next to that, we're going to be adding another EQ, parametric EQ again, and this time we're going to enhance the track. Now what you do in this stage is just to actually boost some frequencies and actually cut out some frequencies. And I have to say this, that if you find yourself boosting too much, something like this, or taking out too much, okay, you actually need to go back to the mix, because the mastering stage is just for very subtle changes. If you find yourself cutting out too much or boosting too much, then you have to go back to your mix and fix that there. So right now I'm just going to go ahead and listen to the track and just do some minor boosting and cutting here and there. So after the cutting and the boosting of some frequencies to enhance the track, we'll be going over to the third step, which is to use another EQ. But this time we're not going to be working with parametric EQ. We were going to be using patcher. So I'm going to go ahead and load up patcher, and then we're going to go over to the presets and to the filter. And we're going to be selecting the mid-side EQ. So you can see we have the mid-side EQ right here, and you can see we have the side and the mid. Right here, we're going to be focusing on the side EQ, and we're going to be taking out some muddiness in the track from the side EQ. So first of all, what you need to do is you need to unplug the mid side. So just go ahead and unplug this, focus on the side right here. And what you want to do is just create a high pass and just cut out some of the slow end. Okay, so let's go ahead and listen to what exactly we are cutting out. Okay, so this is what we are cutting out from the sides. So you can go ahead and connect the mid back together. Now, using Patcha wraps up the first major stage of mastering, which has to do with EQ. Now, we're going to be going over to the next major step, which is to work on the dynamics of the sound. And we do this by compression. So, to compress, we're going to be using Maximus. And the reason why we use Maximus and not something like the Fruity Limiter is because over here in Maximus, we can affect the lows, we can affect the mids, and we can affect the highs. We can work on these different parts individually and separately from each other. And it makes a whole lot of difference because when working on something like Fruity Limiter, it affects the whole track together. The major challenge I see music producers have when focusing on compression is they don't know how much to compress or how low they should go with the compression. And the truth is, there is actually no formula to this and there is no pattern to how this works. All you need to do is just go with the flow. You just have to just compress a little bit, and when you do this for the mids, you do this for the lows, do this for the highs, it always makes a difference. So all you need to do is just make some subtle changes here and there, have a listen to it, and just go with the flow. And just so you know, you can click on this solo button right here. You can just listen to just the low end, and you can also listen to just the mid and just the highs. And also, if you go over to this band right here, you can affect how low you want it to sound. For example, if I'm to play right now, I'm on the lows and I can increase this to cover more portion of the lows. Okay, so more portion is defined as low, and then we have the mids right here. Okay, and then we have the highs right here. So I'm gonna go ahead back to the monitor right here and go over to the lows, and then let's see what we can come up with. Okay, so once I'm done with that, I'm going to increase the post gain to compensate for the loss of volume that the compression has done. For this next step, we do that while still inside of Maximus, and that has to do with the stereo enhancement. Now, it is very, very simple. All we're going to be working with is this knob right here. As you can see, we are still going to be working with the lows, the mids, and the highs. So we're going to select the low end and we're going to push it a little bit towards the mono side. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and leave it around this point right here, 30% merged. And then for the mid, we're going to also go ahead and widen this up a bit. And then for the highs, we can go ahead and boost that a little bit more. That's how I tend to do it. So let's just go ahead and play this and let's see how it sounds. So you can hear how that has just made our track a whole lot wider than how it used to be. Next up, we're going to be working on the loudness of our track to make our track as loud as possible. And to work on that, we're still going to be doing that in the almighty Maximus.
Maximus, the master of mastering.
Alright guys, so if you're enjoying this video and you're learning a lot from this video, please, I would like you to hit the like button and also subscribe to this channel. It really doesn't take much from you, but it means a lot to me as it encourages me to make more videos, and also in a way proves that I'm helping some of you out there and also making a small impact, no matter how small, in the music production community. And also you can check out our website, check out some of our sample packs. We do have the free ones and we have the paid ones. There's a link in the description to go over to the website, check out some samples that are going to inspire you on your next music production project. So back to mastering. We're going to be working on the loudness right now, and to do that we're going to have to work on that on the master right here, because it is the whole track we're going to be making loud. And first of all, you can see we have the threshold right here, so we're going to go ahead and set this to 1%. We can check out mode A or mode B. 1% to the left is mode A, 1% to the right is mode B. So anyone that works for you, you can just go ahead and check that out. And then after you set your threshold to 1%, you're going to set the ceiling to -1 dB. And then now we're going to be pushing the post gain to a point where our song starts to distort. And when we notice that it starts to distort, we now bring it down a little bit. And that's actually the best way to get the loudest sound. Okay. Sometimes you might want to use what they call a loudness meter. There's a free one called the Julian loudness meter 2. Okay. But the best way to go about this is just to actually boost the song to as loud as it can be when it starts distorting, and then you bring it back down. Okay, so once you're done with the loudness, well, you're basically done with the mastering. But sometimes you actually need to go a step further depending on what exactly you want to achieve. And I'm talking about automations. You might sometimes want to automate the volumes to bring down the volumes in the verse a bit, and then boost up the volumes in the choruses, just to make the chorus like feel a bit more full and a bit louder. There's a link in the description to a video that goes over every single thing you need to know about automation within FL Studio, and it is very, very simple. Okay, but what I'm going to do right here in this video, I'm just going to go ahead and add an automation clip on the master. Okay, right click and create an automation clip over everything. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and just fade this down a bit so that I'm sure that the song ends exactly where I want it to end and there is nothing that comes after. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and do that, and then I'm going to go ahead and also push this a little bit forward so that there is a bit space at the beginning of the track before the beat starts. And then, well, that is that. And then lastly, the final step is to actually export the track. Then you also want to select MP3. If you want to export it to MP3, set this to 24 bits, okay, and then take this to as high as possible. Over at the resampling, set it to the highest. And also don't forget to enable master effects right here, and then you go over and export the track. Alright, so mastering, like I said earlier, it's the last stage of music production where we do the final preparations for our track for the audience to listen to. But the truth is, mastering on its own doesn't really have so much effect on what makes your track stand out among others. One thing that can greatly influence your track is the sounds you actually choose to start the track in the first place. And I go over everything you need to know about sound selection in this video shown on your screen right now. Thanks guys for watching this video, and see you in the next one.